Well, hey there, guitar maniacs all over the world. It's your man Martin Gerard here again. And again, I'm going to be talking about the fine UAFX pedals. I'm not being paid by anyone. I just totally dig it. And I personally have my own opinion about those things. I think they are the best you can find in digital guitar modeling nowadays. Recently I grabbed my quad codex just to go and take a look and see if after like 2 or 3 months just playing the anti and the knuckles, if I still like that system, and unfortunately I don't. Now, why do I think that Universal Audio has set a new level for digital modeling? It's basically because they do actual physical modeling, the speakers sound more real, the amps behave like amps, and from my perspective, it's the first time someone actually is doing the digital version of an amp. Because you have to think of the following, like 25 years ago, 25 years ago, I bought one of the first Line 6 pods that came out that promised digital modeling. And the problem is that ever since the pod came out, just putting like channel strips as like models into digital guitar modelers, that became the quasi-standard, right? And from the Helix to the XFX to the Quad Codex, they're all doing that. For example, if you want to have a PV5150, you can either choose between a model unit of the lead channel or a model unit of the crunch channel. What UAD are doing, that is the complete amp with all the features, which might get a little bit complicated when we take a look at the knuckles, which is of course a dual rectifier by Mesa Boogie. Now, this is the typical Mesa Boogie sound, I dare say. Yep, it sounds like a big, fat, and very happy pig, doesn't it? Of course, you can make the pig a little bit slimmer, and that is by using the built-in tube screamer. Let me just activate that for you. Little bit better. We have like a little bit of a slim, fast Weight Watchers fat pig trying to lose weight, but unfortunately, it's still quite a fat sound. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I like that sound, right? So from that perspective, fortunately. By the way, what you just heard, that is the Orange Crunch demo setting taken directly from the Mesa Boogie manual, played over a oversized V30 California, so a Mesa Boogie oversized 412. Doesn't sound too bad, right? You will be surprised how well those Mesa Boogie sample settings from the manual actually translate to the knuckles. I'm going to show you a little bit more. So what we have here, that is the so-called tight mosh. And then here we have the liquid metal. And that's just another example of what the guys at UAD are doing. They are giving us the entire amp with all the settings. And I do understand that for some users nowadays, that might be a little bit overwhelming. But listen to this. I have prepared a Marshall-esque mid-focus program for you, and I'm going to show you how to dial that one in. And that's how it sounds. way less Mesa Boogie, more towards Marshall. Then here's another example. That one I call Marshall-esque overdrive. Exactly a week ago, I played the first concert using the new UAFX board. The gig happened in a very small club here, so there wasn't a lot of room on stage, as you can see. Before the gig, I was using a JHS Switchback loop switcher. One loop went into the clean amp, and the other one went into the distorted amp, as in like Ruby and Knuckles. In order to avoid clicks with the switchback operation, switching from one loop to the other, I had to insert a buffer, which is a Red Panda buffer. That's the one I had. Yeah, I had to place that Red Panda after the JHS to take away the switching noise from the loop switching, because it's like a bit of a special situation. Like, most equipment is not really designed to work like that, because you have the stomp box, and out of the stomp box comes the completely finished sound, and then you have the switching relay, and after that you also have the effects. And in my case, I'm just using parallel effects, only using Lehle P-Split boxes, because they like carry the signal with them, so it doesn't matter what impedance it has. It's a very incredible design to split or sum up signals. Big recommendation. That's like the stuff that works best with the UAD. So let's just get to it and take a look at the settings on the pedal board on the actual unit. For that pedalboard demo, I've switched to this wonderful M1 by ESP. It's an E2, and I bought it from John's guitar store. Many thanks, John. Always the best prices and best service. Thank you very much. The guitar is Fishman equipped, and it kind of sounds like that. Alright, so here's a new pedalboard version in all its glory. As you can see, it's a bit different than the one I used for the concert. I threw off the switchback, so we're using the amps now in 4-cable method. And the interesting thing is, when you want to combine two pedals, you only have to put the first one, which is the Ruby here, into 4-cable method. So you only lose the second button functionality on the Ruby, which would have been boost, and instead of that I have a one control boost on the board. And yeah, the knuckles is just a normal operation, because that is kind of like inserted into the Ruby. So I can go from clean to distorted with the touch of one button. And then I also threw off the H90. Was a bit too much, needed a bit too much space, and I prefer to have the MXR as a phaser ahead of the amp for my modulation effects. So I put on a DD8, and that's absolutely fine. Let's take a very quick look at the signal flow. Signal comes in here at the polytune. On the polytune, I have to say I've switched off the buffer. Please do that, because it just gives a very nasty mid boost that I don't like. And while you probably can't hear it that much on other modelers, it's having a huge effect on the UAFX pedals, right? So from the polytune, it goes into the drop, from the drop into the Ego compressor, from the Ego compressor into the Phase 95, then finally into the Granite Gray booster by one control, and then it goes into the Ruby, and then we have 4-cable method connection, so output 1 of the Ruby goes into the knuckles, right? Output of the knuckles goes into input B, or right input of the Ruby, and the master signal, so either the Ruby or the knuckles, is coming out the right output of the Ruby. as you could hear, it's working without any switch and delays or audio artifacts like clicks or stuff like that. What you probably don't know is that the DD8 is operated in parallel, kind of like on the smaller one-story pedalboard. So the signal is split when it comes out of the Ruby Knuckles combo, and one of the signal splits goes into the delay and the other one goes directly into the AFX. So that's basically the whole thing. In case I want to have a bit more signal going into the Ruby, most of the time I would use that in case I split or I have to play with single coils. I'll just enable the Granite booster, and of course the booster is also nice when you want to play solos. So this is the solo lead mode. That's kind of how it sounds. Because I want to go back to rhythm, just press these switches and you're there. Now I want to go a bit more into what the Pocketblender actually does, because for the price it is an amazing little tool, especially when you're using UAFX pedals, because it's a mixer, like the name Blender says, and it's receiving two signals through a TRS jack. So you need a TRS to mono jack adapter that you get at Thomann, for example. And it's receiving the dry signal from the pedals, and it's also receiving a completely wet signal from the delay. That's just a wet signal from the delay, and when I switch off the delay, nothing comes through. The Pocketblender is also a DI box, and the DI output of the Pocketblender goes into the Lehle P-Split box here, which distributes the signal between my FR in the room and the hard disk recording system. The Pocketblender features a couple of different switching modes. I'm using the A and B switching method, so you basically have 4 faders, right? 2 of these faders represent one input for either the A or B mix. If you switch between A and B discretely here, you'll get clicking noises, so I decided to go for A and B. So usually when I'm playing rhythm, I'm in the B mix, so I have a little bit of delay and a whole lot of dry signal. The other 2 faders are basically defining how much additional signal is added to the already existing mix. So if I go up only with the effect wet signal, I get a lot of effect. If I put that one up, I'm also getting a boost for the dry signal. Last but not least, I want to show you how we can get a bit more of a Marshall-esque sound of the Mesa Boogie. I wish I would have done that for the concert, because for that one I was using quite a fat pig sound, as already mentioned. So let me just recall that preset, and here we are. Settings are a bit different now. So first you have to make sure that on the app you're using the Tube Screamer as your overdrive unit, then a signal full, of course. Then you need to be on the red channel, which is the more modern sounding channel. Channel style should be normal. We're not emulating orange channel on the red one. Then EL34 power tubes, that's the ones we have on the Marshall. That's the ones that bite way more. Solid state rectifier, bolt, power mode, master somewhere in the middle is your best bet for it. Then we're gonna set the bass control at something like a little bit ahead of noon, right? Then mids, that kind of defines your marshalness. And now let's take a listen. Presence can be pretty down. We also have to watch out a little bit with the gain. Treble also fairly low. And the mids is what defines your Marshall. That's pretty close. Let's take a look at the Tube Screamer settings. With the level of the Tube Screamer, you kind of control the distortion. In order for the sound to not get too edgy, we probably want to have the tone somewhere in the middle for a starter, and the distortion should not be totally off, but somewhere around here. That's a pretty good starting tone for a Marshall. I will turn the tone control a little bit off, maybe a little bit more distortion, a little bit more level. I would rather define the edginess of the sound or the breakup of the sound with the volume of the Tube Screamer than with the gain of the amp. Let's just quickly go back. So that's about how Marshall-esque you can get. Just be sure to not use a tube rectifier. Just makes things soft again, and also don't use the spongy power mode. Unless you're looking more for like a Variac Marshall sound, right? That's your best bet then. Well, isn't that great that this company is doing guitar products now? Because it's, after all, it's the company that actually built a digital environment for the actual lexicon for ATL Reverb operating system software to work. That's just incredible. It's very astonishing. And of course, same thing applies to those amps. They are giving you the entire amp. They're not giving you a channel strip. They're not giving you two different channel strips. They're giving you the entire amp with relatively convincing stomp boxes, two you can choose from, and a noise gate. Like, all of that would have been multiple modules and a lot of latency on the quad codecs, for example. I know that because I still have one, even though I don't really want to use it anymore. Maybe for something. It's easier to play because you just play and the same thing comes out no matter how hard you hit it. Well, so much about that. Thank you very much for listening, and don't forget to have the best day ever.